When you listen to music, what attracts you to a song? The beat? The melody? The lyrics? Welcome to Auditio Divina, Sacred Listening with Heart, a podcast sponsored by Spirit Way, a program of Whatsoever You Do Incorporated in Green Bay, Wisconsin. For centuries, Lectio Divina, or sacred reading, has served as a spiritual practice that has helped people to reflect upon the scriptures with a 4-step process. Katie and Tony, hosts of the popular podcast Revealed, sponsored by Resurrection Catholic Parish, bring this ancient practice to the world of music through listening, meditating, praying and contemplating, or sitting with a song. The words and music come alive to add spiritual depth to the experience of listening. Let's join our hosts, Katie and Tony, as they lead us through this spiritual practice, ever ancient and ever new. Welcome to Auditio Divina, Sacred Listening with Heart.
Welcome to Auditio Divina, Sacred Listening with Heart. For Lent, I'm Katie.
And I'm Tony.
And we are coming to you with a song for Palm Sunday. Can you believe it, Tony? Palm Sunday.
We are here at the doorstep of the holiest week of our church year. If this was college football, we would call this the granddaddy of them all. This is what we live for as Christians.
This week defines who we are as Christians. Without this week, we wouldn't be Christians. We wouldn't be celebrating our faith like this. And so we are so excited to come to you with a song that's going to go from the highs of Palm Sunday to also the more seriousness of Palm Sunday.
So before we get into the song, let's get into the readings a little bit. So this is a really interesting Sunday because on most Sundays, all Sundays, we only have one gospel reading. This Sunday, we have two. So as we gather and get ready to process with our palms, we have what's called the Procession of Palms Gospel, and that is from Luke's Gospel. And it's interesting in the fact that Jesus and his disciples are coming into the city of Jerusalem, and they're riding high. Their popularity is high. People are loving the miracles and the teaching and the healing and all of the stuff that's been going on. They've heard so much about this rock star, Jesus, and here he is coming into their midst in the city of Jerusalem, crowded, very crowded for the holy days of Passover. And so that's the first gospel. And so we read that and we receive palms and we process into church with those palms just as Jesus processed into Jerusalem.
And it's a very joyous moment. It's exciting. It's uplifting. And then
the adrenaline at that point is super, super high. It's like the Packers coming into Lambeau Field through the tunnel and the 80,000 people going, crazy for their beloved team. This is very similar to that. So you're right. At the energy, everything's at a peak high, And then we get to the second gospel. And the second gospel is also from St. Luke, and it's the Passion. So it takes us right through the whole story of Jesus' arrest, through his scourging and sentencing to death, and his being nailed to a cross, and then being crucified on the hill of Golgotha. So it's that whole dramatic and yet also, so many emotions, depressing. We've come from that highest of highs to really the lowest of lows. Crucified, corporal punishment as a criminal, a criminal who he wasn't.
The most innocent criminal of all.
Yeah, right. Palm Sunday is this bookend experience of the highest of highs, the lowest of lows as we move into Holy Week.
Absolutely. And the song that we picked is actually kind of came to us randomly. And as we thought about it, it kind of fits. What I love about this song, it's called For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield. And the background on this story is it's from 1966. And a lot of people associate it with a protest song towards the Vietnam War. And as we did a little research on this, it's actually not. It's about protesting against the curfews in Los Angeles in the 60s and the headbutting between the youth and the counterculture to the police. And so how did these two fractions of people kind of come at odds? And this is where Stephen Stills wrote this song about the curfews and about the youth not being who they wanted to be. And that's where this song came from. But the lyrics really play to both the procession of palms, that first reading of Palm Sunday, the entry into Jerusalem, but it also speaks to the passion. And so that's what we're going to break open.
I will also say it's interesting that many times songs get repurposed, right? So they get written for a particular purpose, as Stephen Stills did with this song. It got repurposed as a protest song for the Vietnam War, has been used throughout the years, throughout these decades, as a protest song. And now we're repurposing it again. It's like an item at the thrift shop or something. We are repurposing the song again for our purposes here in terms of Palm Sunday.
And that's what's great about art. Art is so interpretive, and it plays to the viewer and the people that are involved in seeing and hearing and experiencing that art. And it just speaks to our hearts in different ways. So I love it.
Let's jump into Auditio Divina. And our first step, of course, is Auditio. We're going to be listening to the song clip, and we are going to be listening for what word or phrase is choosing us today. What's sticking out? What's kind of grabbing us? So let's listen for a first time to Buffalo Springfield and For What It's Worth.
What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and carrying signs. Mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going on.
As we come back from that first listen, we hope that you actually were singing along, because it's a great song to sing along with. I know I love to sing along with it, but it's time to share what that word or phrase is that's speaking to us, that's grabbing at our hearts. For me, the phrase is, it's time we stop.
And for me, my phrase that really chose me was hooray for our side. So we're going to move into the second step of Auditio Divina, which is meditatio. And in this step, which, by the way, is Latin for meditation. In this step, we're going to be asking the question, why? Why is that word or phrase grabbing us, choosing us today? So let's listen a second time to Buffalo Springfield singing For What It's Worth.
What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and carrying signs. Mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going on.
As we come back from that second listen, it's time to reflect and to share why we believe that word or phrase is calling us. For me, my phrase was, it's time we stop. And once again, when I looked at the lyrics, I didn't really see a word or phrase that popped out at me. But then I went to the song and I listened, and bam, it hit me. It's time we stop. This really speaks to me because, especially working for the church, Lent has flown by, and I don't feel like I have really given the attention of my Lenten practices that I needed to. And now here we are at Palm Sunday, and I'm thinking, did I take time to stop and just really focus on my Lenten journey? Did I take time to reflect on where we're going as we approach the Triduum, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and Easter? And I'm kind of disappointed in myself because I didn't take time, as much time as I should have. Did I take some time? Absolutely. I took time, but not as much as I needed to. And so it's time for me to stop. It's time for all of us to stop. And I think of those people that were experiencing both the entry into Jerusalem, and I think of the people that experienced the Passion. Some of them took time to stop, but there were a lot of people that they didn't notice that Jesus entered Jerusalem. They didn't notice Jesus being condemned, and they didn't stop and see him carrying his cross and dying on the cross. And that's what we need to do. we need to stop and see Jesus entering into our lives. We need to stop and see Christ entering into our lives. And we need to see the moments that Christ is persecuted. And we need to see the moments that Christ is hung upon the cross. And we need to stop and we need to say, either fight against that or we need to rejoice. Just like the people rejoiced when he entered and the people that wept when he was dying on the cross. And so for me, it's time that I stop and really focus on what this Holy Week means for me. If I don't take time this week to stop and look and listen, I'm missing the boat.
For me, my phrase was, hooray for our side, but just like I did a couple weeks ago, I'd like to walk through the entire song just really quickly because I think it fits, every word, every phrase fits so well with what's going on here on Palm Sunday. What a field day for the heat. When you think about the religious leaders, the Roman leaders at the time, this was their field day, the field week, really, of all the events that are going on. 1,000 people in the streets, and literally for Passover, there would have been thousands of people in the streets of Jerusalem, singing songs, carrying signs. It was a joyous time. Passover was a time to remember the Exodus, the most paradigmatic, the most shaping event of the Israelite people. So 2,000 years later, those Israelites, the Jewish people, were celebrating again and singing songs. Not sure they were actually carrying signs, but,
maybe
who knows?
Were.
Maybe they were.
Well, the
carrying
palms.
Parchments, and they were definitely carrying palms. Exactly. Yeah. And then we get to my phrase, mostly saying, hooray for our side. And so as we look at the people when Jesus is entering the city, they are hooray for Jesus, hooray for the side of Jesus. We're all on Jesus' side. But what's so, fascinating to me every single year is how quickly that shifts, how it shifts from Sunday to Thursday and then Friday, where the people, the crowds kind of make a shift. And so now we still have people on Jesus' side, but the great majority of people have, almost in a peer pressure kind of way, been shifted to being on the side of the Roman rulers and leaders as well as the religious leaders. And so I just think, hooray for our side. As I enter into Holy Week on this Palm Sunday, whose side am I really on? Am I truly on Jesus' side? Am I part of Jesus' team, so to speak? Or am I not? Whose side am I on? I always think of that song, God on Our Side, sung by, I believe originally Bob Dylan. And it just talks about how we view God being on our side, no matter what side that is. But I think the question gets flipped around here. Am I on God's side? Am I on Jesus' side? So let's go to the third step of Auditio Divina, which is oratio. That's Latin for prayer. So we're going to listen a third time to Buffalo Springfield singing For What It's Worth. And then we're going to lift up our word or our phrase in prayer to the holy, to the spiritual, to our God. So let's listen again to For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield.
What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and a carrying signs. Mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going on.
Now we invite you to take some time in silent reflection and to lift that word or phrase up in prayer to the holy and the sacred.
Welcome back from that time of prayer. Now we're going to move into the fourth step of Auditio Divina, which is called Contemplatio, which is Latin for contemplation. We're going to play this song a fourth and final time, and we're going to be inviting you to let that song, that word, that phrase, sink deep into you, really affecting how you live this Holy Week, this holiest of weeks. And so let's listen again to Buffalo Springfield singing For What It's Worth.
What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and carrying signs, mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going on.
It's time now to sit with that word or phrase and to really meditate on it. So we invite you to meditate on your word or phrase, reflecting on how is it going to make a difference as you enter into Holy Week. Well, we hope that you found some great reflections coming forth from your heart during that time. We're going to talk now about how we're going to allow that word or phrase to permeate our lives as we enter Holy Week. And for me, my phrase was, it's time we stop. And it cannot be more clearer to me than that. I need to stop. You know, working in the church, we always kind of jokingly say this is the most hectic week of our lives. It is the most important, and so we really work hard to make sure that others experience the most holy week of all in a most profound way. And it's kind of a lot of times at our own detriment. We're putting other people first. In order to bring the holiness of Holy Week to the people that I meet and that I minister to, I need to stop. I need to take time to really open my eyes and to hear what God is calling me to this week. So more concretely, I am going to take time in church, quietly in prayer. I'm going to take time to really focus on how I can wash other people's feet in the way that God calls us on Holy Thursday. To really care and to humble myself in the service of others, and to really focus on my relationship with God. I am going to stop.
Right about now, I wish my phrase was the same, because I need to do the same of what you just said. But my phrase is not that, so we're going to go a different direction, and that is hooray for our side. As I ponder the events of Holy Week, to me, Holy Week is such a participative week. We process in with palms. We wash each other's feet. We adore the cross and venerate the cross by kissing it. We carry candles on the Easter Vigil. So there's just so many ways to just engage and participate. And my hope and prayer for myself, but also for my friends, my family, and our community, is that we reflect upon, as we're participating in all of those different celebrations and ceremonies and activities and prayer, that we reflect on how we are called to be a disciple of Jesus, to be a follower, to really live that same process of dying and rising with Jesus. And so we want to be on the team of Jesus, on the side of Jesus as a follower or a disciple of Jesus. I think this is the week to really commit to that, to celebrate that, to participate in that. So that's what my hope and prayer is.
And we hope that you have just as a holy week as we are striving to do, we pray and we hope that you stop. And we invite you to participate in all aspects of Holy Week as we come together to celebrate. And you focus on this week, that you don't let it slip by. Don't let Holy Week fly by and you're on Easter Sunday looking back and thinking, where did it all go?
Until we see you on the other side at Easter Sunday for our final episode of this season, we will
catch you on the flip side.